Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Airbnb designer Kyle Pickering.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited about what's coming up next. He's all about helping people leave that which is comfortable to pursue their passion. Mike Lewis is the CEO and founder of When to Jump, a global community that's all about exploring the question, when is the right time, and what the heck should I be doing?
I think in whatever world you live in, you can get very used to the bubble you surround yourself with. One day when I kind of went through that routine for the umpteenth time, I kind of had this little voice in the back of my head that was like, you know, you do have a dream. It kind of crystallized this idea. No matter where I was, I'd be on a train or at a bar stool next to someone, and I'd be telling my story, and instead of people saying, I don't get it, which is what I thought, people were looking at me and saying, I have a similar type of dream. I have a jump I want to make. What I found was all different types of jumps from all different types of people, leaving all different types of backgrounds. Everyone had some story that they wanted to share. These stories are meaningful, and we all have something we want to go do. What I hope is that this project just gives people, whether it's inspiration or how-to or data points or evidence or group therapy or whatever it is, I hope this gets people a little bit closer to taking that jump.
Thank you. Let's do a quick show of hands. Who here has a secret jump, a passion project, a little voice in their head, something they want to do, they're not doing, or are doing, or trying to do? Okay. Wow. All right. Let's take 30 seconds and do this. Just turn to the person next to you. Introduce yourself. If you know them, turn to the other person. Introduce yourself. Tell them what your jump is, and then we're going to switch, okay? Really quick. Let's do it. Sure. All right, and switch. If you haven't started talking, start talking. All right, let's wrap it up. We will return to that. Good job, guys. Let's bring it back. All right. Thank you. All right, good job. So I'd like to start with describing my own jump story and share with you what I would share with the person next to me if I was sitting in the audience. So my story begins in Boston on the 39th floor of a very nondescript office building in a very small office cubicle. And while sitting at this desk of mine and going to work every day, I sensed a certain type of circularity to my life. Every day looked a little bit like the day before it and the day after, 5 days a week. And I knew two things were true after the first couple years in this job that I was in. Number one was that I had a secret dream. I had a passion project. I had a little voice in my head. And that voice wasn't going away, which was a little bit annoying. And number two, and this was also unfortunate, is that no matter how much I wished, no one was going to come into my office, knock on the door, walk up and say, "Hey, Mike, it's March 4th. It's time to go chase your dream, buddy. You're out." I was hoping, and I waited for years. No one was coming. No knock, nothing. And in my little office, I had this map of the world pasted along the wall. Like many of you, I have a passion for travel, and I would look at this map, and I'd kind of think of this voice, and I'd put it away. And days would go by. And then above my desk, I had this quote from the founder of Amazon, Jeff Bezos. And it was a really long quote, but I shortened it up so I could put it on my computer. And the quote, to paraphrase, basically left you with a question. He says, when you're 80 years old, and you're in the twilight of your life, and you have a few hours on some idle Thursday afternoon, and you look back, what stories are you going to be most proud of? What choices will you make that will make those stories up, that you'll be most proud of? I knew my answer. I knew it very well. I just didn't know when to go do it. So I come from a really big family, very loud family. My parents are here. Sisters want to come. They'll see this later. And the way we operate is you ask questions when you don't know the answer. So my solution to this voice that wouldn't go away was to track down other people and ask other people who have left something comfortable to go chase something that they cared about. And that comfort could be anything. It could be law, education, public service, staying at home, being retired, whatever it may be. Something that you didn't have to leave. That was the only criteria. And find those people who left these comfortable places and went into something that they actually really cared about. They answered that little voice in their head. And that could be opening a paint shop, a bakery, traveling more, learning a language after work. Little things, big things, any things. And then one night, about a year and a half into trying to answer this voice and cold calling a lot of different people, I got a hold of a woman named Evelyn Stevens. She was actually featured in a magazine that I happened to have on my little desk in Boston, and it was January of 2013. And the interview was about how Evelyn quit her job in corporate America to become a regional cyclist, having never really cycled before the age of 27. And what was crazy was Evelyn ended up becoming an Olympian and then another Olympian. So she just represented the United States in Rio for the second time and is retiring this year. And for me, that was intimidating. That was something I couldn't really relate to. But frankly, I was bored and I thought, why not? I'm going to call her. And I found her number, and miraculously she picks up. And before I could say, please don't hang up. I'm not weird. I just have a question. She said, well, what are you doing? What do you want to do? And so I told her I have a jump I want to make, and I'd like to know when to do it. And so what I thought she said, or what I thought she would say, was, hey, this is how you become an Olympic cyclist. This is how you become an athlete. And I'd have to figure out how to apply that to my own jump. But what she actually described to me were things like how she told her parents and how she wondered about what her friends would think. And how when she jumped, if it didn't work out, what do you do next? What happens there? She was coming from a place of comfort. So I hung up the phone and I went into my buddy's office, this guy, Corey Griffin. And I said to Corey, this should be a book, this should be a community, or really these stories should just be out there, because what she just told me does not relate only to my jump or what Corey wanted to jump to. I think all of us have something. Every one of us who raised their hands, we got something we want to do. And so Corey encouraged me. He was a larger-than-life kind of guy, and he encouraged me to make a book. I sketched a cover page with stick figures, and I put it up on my office wall for another year. And over the course of that year, I started to collect more stories and pass them around. Friends of friends, colleagues, strangers. The story started to catch on. A community was born. And naturally, I called it When to Jump. I ended up leaving that job and chasing my dream. 16 months, 250,000 miles, 50-something countries, a lot of Airbnb hosts later. I did it. And sadly, while I was gone, my buddy Corey passed away in an accident. And I looked through emails and I thought about his legacy that he left me with. And it occurred to me that, we have this much time. And maybe we have this much time, but we definitely don't have this much time. And specifically to my relationship with Corey, I knew I was going to finish this project. So while I was couch surfing, while I was meeting new Airbnb hosts, going around the world, staying with other people for just about every single night of a year and a half, I started collecting more stories. Came back a year ago to the States, stayed on my buddy's couch in San Francisco, and over time started to build this community. In the past 8 months, we've been fortunate to partner with folks like Airbnb, Huffington Post, and other publications. We've reached millions of people in the last 8 to 10 months since we started, curating a community of stories, people, and ideas around knowing when to jump. Our platform is in part events and print and digital media. And in a year, that book that I sketched the cover page of 3 years ago will come out. And it's going to be called When to Jump If the Job You Have Isn't the Life You Want. And that one's for Corey. My editors would also like me to add that we encourage you all to read it when it comes out. And for those not in the States, we sign the foreign rights away, so find it in your local bookstore. But what I learned, and we now have 40-something stories in the manuscript, we get emails of folks jumping every day. And I feel very fortunate to be able to learn from these stories and put them together. And to be honest, I don't think I'm qualified to tell people how to live their lives. I just want to create a space for that to happen. So that's our community. And what I've learned is a few things, but what I want to talk about today is that no jump is made overnight. In fact, what I like to call there's 10,000 unsexy steps to any jump you make. I think we all who have jumped or want to jump can relate. It's one thing to scroll your newsfeed, look on Instagram, look over at the Joneses next door and be like, how did they do that? How'd Sam end up in Bali? That's awesome. But the reality of these things is that it's a lot of unsexy steps. And I think in our culture right now, that's not always highlighted because it's not that fun and it doesn't maybe sell. But there's planning, there's budgeting, there's financial constraints, there's homes and families to consider, right? And no one that I interviewed in the last several months of doing this has said that they woke up one day and it just happened. Now, I want to ask another question and another show of hands. Airbnb is an interesting community. You can use it to make extra money. You can use it to meet different people. I'd like to know in the audience, has anyone used Airbnb as a way to make little steps towards that dream they have? Show your hands. Met new people? Wow, okay. I want to show one video really quickly of a friend of mine who did something similar to the folks who raised their hand. Her name is Manishas Story. She is a Airbnb host from Brooklyn, New York, and this is her story.
I'm Manisha, and I'm an Airbnb host from Brooklyn, and I jumped from performing artist to founder of my own tech startup. So when I decided to, stop acting, obviously I needed some way to make an income, and I was working as a substitute teacher, which is, not the best salary to support a New York City lifestyle. So my income from Airbnb really helped give me the time to hibernate, so to speak, to almost like a butterfly. Before a butterfly comes out of the cocoon, I really needed that period. And I eventually, after kind of 2 years of ideation, decided that what I was going to do was create a camp for teens to help them create businesses for what Cottage Class is now. I mean, I could not have done it by any circumstance without Airbnb. I mean, maybe I would be building something else entirely. Unlike other startups, I have not had to fundraise at all to support Cottage Class because I've been able to support my own salary through my Airbnb income. I just love the team at Airbnb. We've gone to every open and I just feel like there's just such a generosity and openness of spirit and abundance. But certainly I feel so grateful to have had Airbnb because it's been the absolute foundation for what I've built. But, I sometimes joke that Cottage Class is like the Airbnb baby, which seems appropriate for a child education startup.
Good.
But it very much is so.
Okay, we're going to take another 30 seconds to revisit that conversation we had to begin with our neighbor. And what I want to do really quick is to share with each other the ways that you've used Airbnb to take one of those steps. And if you haven't, maybe ask your neighbor for ideas on how you can. Okay, quick 30 seconds. Share a couple ideas, stories. All right, switch if you haven't yet. Switch turns. All right, let's start to wrap it up and bring it back. I hope that was productive. Couple more seconds. All right. It's coming back. Clap, maybe. All right. Thanks, guys. That was more participation than I expected. All right. So I want to end on one last piece, and it's also interactive, so we'll get to continue these conversations. Don't worry. I actually did worry about that when we were going through rehearsal, because what if no one has used Airbnb to make it stay? That would be awkward. Thankfully, you raised your hands, so that worked. So I want to end on one little activity, which I thought would be a fun way to continue this conversation or idea brainstorm. And that is for everyone to get out their cell phone right now. So grab your cell phone, and I want you to create a new email message. And on the to box, put in the email address open@whentojump.com. And in the subject line, I want you to write in 5 words or less the jump you want to make, or are making, or have made. And it can be surf. It can be open bakery. And I promise I won't share with anyone. True, I really won't. It's just to me. The address we're going to put on the screen is open@whentojump.com. It doesn't have to be capitalized in the @whentojump, just open@whentojump. The subject line is your jump. So it can be open bakery, learn language, teach, travel more. We'll take a second on that. I know I'm putting you on the spot. And you don't have to write anything other than just send it from there. And what we're going to do is over the next year, I'm going to check in with you on that. And I'm going to ask what steps you're taking towards getting to that jump. And for those that have made a bunch of steps and want to share, when we come back for Open 2017, we'll bring you up and we'll have you be our Manisha, and we'll show the jumps you've made through the steps you've taken. So you can do it now, you can save it as a draft, but I hope you do share it with us. And what we're going to do is when we have that, we'll be able to include you in our community. We'll be able to share with you the stories and ideas of people that are jumping every day in different ways. We have an idea for when to jump, which is that eventually we're going to create a member directory. And if you want to be a part of it now, it's up and running in private beta. It'll be a long time coming because this is a bootstrapped operation. But eventually you'll be able to say, I'm traveling to Los Angeles. I'm staying at a great Airbnb and I'm doing one of the experiences downtown. And I'm thinking about leaving consulting. Or I'm thinking about learning a new language. And if you're in consulting, maybe you want to go into baking. And when you're in Los Angeles, you can say, all right, I have an hour free. I'm going to go in the When to Jump directory. And I'm going to find people who left consulting. I'm going to find people who jumped into baking. And we'll be able to match you with some people that might have done both. So eventually, that's where our vision is. This is a small step towards that. The email is a fun way to stay involved. So just think about that. Share your email with us if you want. If you don't, that's okay. But I want to wrap up on 3 quick things. One, as I started with, it's okay to have a secret jump, a passion project, something you really want to do. I don't think people tell each other that enough. That's okay. And second, which I hope is also comforting, no jump is made overnight. No matter how many good videos there are on our Facebook feeds of people in Bali, I promise you, these things take time. At least that's what I've found. And then number 3, and maybe most important, and I think this community understands that better than anyone, is that no jump is ever made alone. You know, I started this community out of feeling really lonely in my desk in Boston, wanting other people and stories and ideas to share. And I think that's where we go from here. Like I said, I don't think of myself as someone qualified to tell anyone how to live their lives, but I think we can do a lot by bringing people together. So email me. My email is just mike@whentojump.com. I'm here all weekend. We're doing a lot of exciting things. I'll be speaking with the Lean In founder and Facebook COO, Sheryl Sandberg, on Monday, November 21st, live from Facebook. We're really trying to get started on this, and we'd love for you to be a part of that. I feel really lucky that Airbnb found us and we're able to work together, because I think this is just the beginning. And I hope to see all of you, whether it's this open or ones in the future. And lastly, just remember, whether it's today or when you go back to work on Monday, always keep thinking about when to jump. Thank you.